The danger of the slow drift. What Lot's story teaches us about compromise. The saddest part about Lot's story isn't that he almost died in a burning city. It's that long before the fire started, his heart was already trapped by the culture around him. When you read about Lot in the Bible, it makes you sigh. He wasn't a deeply wicked person. He didn't completely reject God or turn into a massive rebel. Yet, he ended up with a broken, heavy life. He survived, which shows God's amazing mercy, but Lot didn't walk away looking like a hero. He walked away with a life in pieces. Many people read this and just think, wow, I'm glad God saved him. But the real warning for us is this. You don't have to completely abandon your faith to lose your spiritual strength. You can just slowly drift. The tragedy of Lot isn't that his escape was a mess, it's that long before he had to run, he had already been losing on the inside for years. 1. The problem isn't a sudden crash, it's a slow drift. Lot didn't ruin his life in a single day. His tragedy didn't start with one massive, terrible sin. It started with a decision that looked totally reasonable. When he had to pick where to live, he didn't ask, where will I grow closer to God? He asked, what makes the most practical sense? Where is the best opportunity for success? What looks good right now? He chose the rich, prosperous city, ignoring the toxic spiritual environment. This is exactly how the trap works for us. Most of us don't wake up and decide to ruin our lives or abandon our faith. We fail because in our everyday choices, we put convenience, ambition, or comfort ahead of what is spiritually safe. Lot just trusted his eyes too much. The most dangerous thing we can do is mistake something that looks good for something that is actually good for us. 2. The danger of the I can handle it mindset. The Bible shows this perfectly. Lot didn't just pack up and move into Sodom on day one. He pitched his tent towards Sodom. He just got a little closer. This exposes a harsh reality for a lot of us. We don't go bad overnight. We just slowly get closer to the line, slowly adapt, and slowly get used to the culture. At first, you might think, it's okay if I compromise a little at work, or I can watch this, it won't affect me, or I know my limits. But eventually, your habits, your standards, and what you care about are completely reshaped by the environment around you. It's not that Lot didn't know there was danger, he just thought he could get a little closer without getting burned. Spiritual burnout rarely happens because of one massive storm. It happens because we tell ourselves, I can handle this, I'll be fine. 3. Your compromises don't just hurt you, they ruin your influence. The most heartbreaking part isn't just that Lot messed up his own life, but that his choices dragged his family down with him. When angels told him to warn his future sons-in-law to run, they literally thought he was joking. Why? Because if you claim to follow God, but your lifestyle looks exactly like everyone else's, nobody takes your faith seriously. Even worse, his wife physically left the city but couldn't stop looking back, and his daughters' minds were deeply polluted by the culture they grew up in. When you choose to stay in toxic environments, you aren't the only one paying the price. Your family, your future, and the people closest to you are all impacted. 4. Getting stuck in toxic places. The most striking scene in the story is when the city is literally about to be judged, and Lot hesitates. He knows the danger, the angels are warning him, but he drags his feet. He just couldn't bear to let go of his life there. He didn't leave with strength, the angels practically had to drag him out by the hand. Have you ever known a relationship was toxic, or that a certain environment was pulling you down, or that a habit was destroying your peace, but you still hesitated? We drag our feet, make excuses, and refuse to cut ties. Lot's life shows us that God has immense grace. He will pull us out, but how tragic is it to be dragged out of the fire instead of walking in victory? 5. Settling for less than your true potential. Why did Lot want that city in the first place? Because it looked like the ultimate place to be. It looked like success. But what happened? He wanted to grasp it all, but ended up with almost nothing. He didn't just lose his wealth, he lost the respect, purpose, and amazing testimony his life could have been. Look at his uncle Abraham. Abraham trusted God, and his life grew wider, stronger, and more secure. Lot chased the world, and his life got narrower, messier, and more chaotic. We can chase short-term success and worldly approval, but without realizing it, we're trading away the incredible potential and purpose God actually has for us. 6. You don't have to be a rebel to lose your way. The reason Lot's story hits so hard is that he's just like many ordinary people. He didn't aggressively hate God. He knew what was right, but he just didn't stick to it in his daily life. He didn't deny his faith out loud, but his footsteps walked further and further into the world. He just kept telling himself, it's not that serious. This is the ultimate warning. You don't have to openly rebel against God to ruin your life. Constantly compromising will do the exact same thing. Believing in God in your head while living exactly like the rest of the world is incredibly dangerous. Conclusion. The saddest thing about Lot wasn't that he lived in Sodom, it's that Sodom slowly moved into his heart, his choices, and his family. He survived, but he walked away with regrets, scars, and a whole lot of what-ifs. You don't have to completely abandon your faith to experience a broken life. Just keep compromising. What truly determines where your life ends up isn't one giant mistake. It's the tiny, everyday choices to compromise that you think don't matter. If you keep walking towards the edge, even if God's grace catches you, you will lose so much of the life you were meant to live.